الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. أما بعد, welcome everybody to another episode of Rhyme and Reason, the intersection of culture, knowledge, and art. And I am very excited and very happy and very honored to have two incredibly renowned and special individuals to me, Shaykh Yassir Fazaga and Reem, Sister Saba Syed. Welcome. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So this session is actually going to be a session where we discuss a topic that's still quite taboo in the Muslim community, and that's sexuality. And when I read the bios of our two esteemed panelists here, inshallah ta'ala, today, you'll understand why these were the two individuals who I wanted the most to discuss this topic with. And this is Shaykh Yassir Fazaga is originally from Eritrea in East Africa, and he holds a bachelor's in Islamic Studies from Imam Saud University's branch in Virginia, USA. He's a licensed therapist in the state of California. He holds a master's in marriage and family therapy, as well as a second master's in Middle Eastern Studies from the University of Texas in Austin. He also holds a certificate in sexology from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor. He's the former director of the mental health department at Access California Services, where he currently works as an advisor for the mental health department. And Shaykh Fazaga is currently living and working in Memphis, Tennessee, where he's serving as the director of counseling and support at Memphis Islamic Center and Salam and PVS School. And Shaykh is the founder and president of AlMaghrib Institute, which is dedicated to educate and enlighten the Muslim community or the community about issues related to mental health and sexuality. And he's lectured throughout the US, Canada, the Middle East, and the Far East. And then we have Reem. Saba Syed is the author of an international award-winning novel, An Acquaintance, and she has a bachelor's in Islamic Studies. She studied Arabic language and literature at Qatar University and at Cairo Institute in Egypt. She's also received her ijazah in Quranic Hafs recitation in Egypt from Shaykh Muhammad Al-Hamazawi, and she's been actively involved with Islamic community work since 1995 through her MSA and as a founding member of Texas Dawah Convention and other community organizations. In 2002, she organized and hosted the very first Muslim Women's Conference in Houston, Texas. Since then, she's been passionately working towards empowering Muslim women through the correct and untainted teachings of Islam. She's a pastoral counselor for marriage and family, women, and youth issues. And she has hosted several Islamic lectures and weekly halaqas in different communities all over throughout the United States and overseas. Also hosted special workshops regarding parenting, Islamic sex ed, female sexuality, and marital intimacy. Alhamdulillah. So welcome. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you for being with us. And very quickly, we wanted to actually, if I could begin with Sister Saba, you're currently working on a literary novel. And if you could tell us a little bit about what that novel entails. It's still untitled, inshallah ta'ala, but we're hoping for it to be published soon, inshallah ta'ala. What is the theme of this book, and what made you decide to tell this particular story?
First of all, Ammar, Jazakallah khair for having me over. Really means a lot. Very feel honored to be, with you and Shaykh Yassir Fazaga. I don't know if he remembers me or not, but I was once his student. So the novel basically, it was not meant to be going in that direction where it went, but it's about sexual violence in the Muslim world towards women, particularly in Pakistan. I was more familiar. I had more opportunity to research over there, so I picked that country not to, particularly just for any group or something, not like hitting on them, but just to highlight the problem there. I hadn't really, when I started writing the novel, I hadn't really decided that that was going to be the main theme until I started interviewing women in Pakistan and the activists, and they saw my background, they saw what I represent. And because I have been dealing with the female sexuality and the marital intimacy, and I've been one of those few women who are, took that platform and started speaking about it. We have the Loving Muslim Marriages on Muslim Matters, the videos that we are doing on female sexuality. Those women in Pakistan, they asked that, look, you have a background on this. So why don't you highlight this problem? Because there have been a lot of discussion on the domestic violence, on the mental abuse, the emotional abuse towards women in Pakistan, but no one has ever highlighted the sexual violence towards women in Pakistan. And so that's how I, started. I specifically targeted this subject.
Jazakallah khair. And Sheikh Yasir, this topic isn't restricted, obviously, to the Indian subcontinent. Coming from Eritrea yourself, the Horn of Africa has been suffering from this the infamy, or it's considered to be one of those places in which the female gender mutilation it is focused on in that region. Is this something that do you see to be widespread through the Muslim world? Is it particular to the Muslim world?
So Ammar, again, salaam alaikum, and salaam alaikum to you, Sister Saba, as well. I'm just trying to remember, as you were talking, I'm saying, I can't believe she actually referred to herself as being my student one day. MashaAllah, very impressive. And if that was the case, then I must say that I am truly honored, MashaAllah, wa tabarakallah, and I wish you the very best with your upcoming book, inshallah, ya Rabbil Alameen. Ammar, thank you for doing this. And Ammar has not said the word sex yet, by the way.
I have. I said it at the beginning.
He's been avoiding saying.
Sheikh, I was hoping, to be honest, I'm like, you know what, let me have both of them together so I can kind of just, ease my way out.
But it shouldn't be so, Ammar.
Yeah.
And I say this as a Muslim, and this is the Muslim in me talking, not the counselor or the sexologist in me. When you look into the Quran, and I've been teaching on Islam and sexuality, specifically Quran, sexuality as presented by the Quran. There are over 80 references to sex and sexuality in the Quran. So the Quran is not a book that shies away from these topics. And usually taboo is cultural construct. The Quran does not, we wouldn't really use the word taboo for the Quran. The Quran makes a lot of use of euphemism. And that is how the Quran speaks about that topic. And what it does is that it can speak about that topic without offending the listener. And the usage of the euphemism is not really to deceive or to short sale the listener or the reader of the Quran. So what it does is that the reader knows what is going on, and the Quran is being very honest. So the usage of the euphemism here is absolutely brilliant in the way that the Quran deals with that topic. And usually whenever we bring up the topic of sexual violence, we just want to let our viewers know that they should take care of themselves. So sexual violence is usually a word that when we bring up, we like our viewers to be prepared. So if anybody is, for maybe some people have experienced this in their past or brings up emotions in them, I just want to remind you to please take care of yourself. You can turn this off and maybe listen to it at some other time. So FGM, your question.
What does that mean, Sheikh? I'm sorry, what does that mean to take care of yourself? What does that mean?
Well, meaning that right now the topic was brought up, and maybe to some people it was brought up abruptly, and they are reacting to this.
Okay.
And if the reaction is intense, what we want to do is that we want you to take care of yourself. Maybe all emotions are coming to you. Maybe you are re-experiencing something that has happened to you in the past. So what we say, take care of yourself, is you can put this on hold, since you can, listen to it at any other time. But for right now, we want you to take care of yourself. That's what we are referring to. And yes, so part of that FGM is, yes, it was, alhamdulillah, I should say, it was very widespread in the Horn of Africa, places like Eritrea, Somalia, Sudan, some parts of Egypt, as well as Ethiopia, Kenya, in these places. It's not limited to that one particular part, and it's not only limited to the Muslim community. It is unfortunately a practice that we hope will come to an end one day, Ya Rabbil Alameen. So the way that we like to address it is that there is very little Islamic basis for it, if any. At best, it would be something that is referred to as nuking, and it's not FGM. That's like at absolute very, very best. And it's not even a must. At best, it is something that is allowed. And when you speak of sexual violence, this would be, yes, a form of it, especially when done to people at an extremely very young age. Now that becomes problematic. And that's why the voices of somebody like Sister Saba is really important. And you using the platform that you have in order to inform, to enlighten the people so that people actually make better choices and they make better decisions. And I think that is just absolutely crucial, where everybody actually they can do something about this, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. I want to pose this question to both of you. Both of you have done extensive marital counseling for a long time. How important is the generally sexuality is kind of considered to be the domain of the man, and female sexuality is suppressed. How important is it for both individuals with regards to a healthy marriage for both of their sexualities to be expressed, and how do our sisters go about expressing it, and how do our brothers go about understanding it?
Oh, I should go first, or so
Go.
Sheikh, my teacher, please. Ammar, I'm so sorry. Before I answer your question, I just wanted to add something to your previous question about
Sure.
sexual violence. Just based on my research, what I have noticed is that whenever we address sexual violence, this particular term, automatically we think of the first thing is FGM. But there's so much more. I just wanted to say that there's so much more to sexual violence than just the FGM. There are things that when we were, in our younger age, were religiously taught, some of the things that were not, unfortunately, were not even looked upon as sexual violence as part of the religion, that later on we discovered that no, this is not the Islamic teaching. For instance, marital rape. It took me years and years and years to realize that no, there is such thing as marital rape, because we were simply taught in the beginning that no, there's no such thing as marital rape, but there is, and it has serious effects on women. And that goes back to the whole messed up teaching of female sexuality to women. Hence, there is, the whole thing of marital rape, and there is child marriages that happens not only in Pakistan, not only in India, but also in the Middle East, in Egypt, in Jordan, in the other Arab countries as well. So it's not only like in Indian Pakistan region problem.
When you say child marriages, are we talking about the consummation of the marriage with a child, or what are we talking about?
Yes. So, and particularly in my research in Pakistan, we have like 7 years children, girls who are being married off, and the consummation is happening to them as well. And it's brutal. It's really brutal. And there are a lot of side effects that, I don't want to get into, because then that would be just a discussion in of itself. Psychological impact, I'm pretty sure Shaykh Yassir Fazaga, would be able to elaborate more. But also virginity tests, which is not only in India and Pakistan, also in the Middle East, also in all the Arab countries. So all of these things, they're all like part of sexual violence. And just wanted to highlight that.
Very important point.
Yeah.
So now back to the question about sexuality. Since you started, you can continue, inshallah.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Can you say that question again?
I'm trying to remember what it was. But just women professing their sexuality, how important is it in couples, with all of the counseling that you're doing, that sexuality of the wife not be repressed or suppressed?
Well, again, then and I have noticed that more among the Indians and Pakistanis and Bengalis from that subcontinent more. than other races, and there is reason for that we can get into later. But the whole messed up idea of female sexuality from the very beginning, the way it's taught to women, or the way it's understood by everybody, is that, you know, women are not sexual, only men are sexual, women are only emotional. And also to sort of protect the family honors from the very beginning. The girls are taught that, you know, their sexuality is taught in a very different way. First of all, they're not taught about anything. Second of all, even when they start discovering some things about it, it's always told that, no, this is something, sex is for men, it's enjoyable only for men. You know, women are they're different, they're created differently, they're emotional, their needs are different. So when they're finally, you know, intimate with their spouse, the whole concept of their own sexuality is very different. It's you know, a lot of time these women don't even know that they're supposed to participate, they're supposed to enjoy it. It's okay for them to enjoy their intimacy with their husbands. I mean, a lot of times I have to like take them back and to you know, to the beginning, that no, it's okay for you, there's nothing wrong with it, it's not only a man's thing. And that good women don't think about sex, good women don't enjoy sex. These are all the teachings that are sort of either directly or indirectly taught to women. And
is that something that you even see in the United States? So I can't imagine, for example, a girl who's growing up in the United States, you know, even if that's what she's being told in her house, like the sexual nature of the culture would challenge that in her mind, no?
It does. And see, that's the thing is, you know, it has health issues, psychological issues, even spiritual issues. And to me, the spiritual issues are the most dangerous issues, because their body is telling them one thing, and then their parents or grandparents are telling them something else, you know, because we still have joint family system among the Pakistani families, you know, or Indian families. And even if not, the concept is somehow directly or indirectly, it's there. Like, you know, just a mother will drop a sentence, oh, you know, good girls don't talk about this, good girls don't even think about this. So that idea is slowly somewhere there in the back, in the back of their minds. And so when their bodies are react in a different way, then when they start having sexual thoughts or sexual desires, they themselves start telling that, oh no, this is not good, it's not okay for me to think about it, I'm not a good person. I've gotten so many messages and emails, and, you know, after an acquaintance, because an acquaintance has a lot of reference of, you know, what do you call, validating a female sexuality. A lot of girls messaged me and they said, thank you so much, because all our lives we thought we were bad, we were evil, something was wrong with us. So
and I guess
yeah.
if the girls are being taught that, then the guys are being taught that also, who are growing up in the same households, and then that would cause them to invalidate their future spouse's sexuality.
Ammar, I'm so glad you said that, because I'm not going to name any webinars or seminars or something, but I have heard myself in some of these, you know, in marital intimacy online classes, some of very knowledgeable people say that the women who are pure, who are good women, they're not even familiar with their body parts. They're not even familiar with their private parts. So for me, one of the, and I have gone back and forth arguing with some of those speakers, because for me, I said, look, if a girl is pure and she's good and she's never done anything wrong, and she gets married, and all these male students who were present in your class or in the webinar, or if they heard this, if their wife is familiar with her body parts, what are they going to think of her? That she's not a good person, she's, you know, she's not pure, she's not good. So yes, you're absolutely right. And I have had these problems with some of the sisters who said that when we try to express our sexual desires to our husbands, you know, some of them unfortunately have told their wives that, you know what, just be a good person and don't talk to me about this, and we'll figure it out. So the idea that yes, good women don't talk about this, don't think about this, don't desire it, it's in their heads too.
Sheikh Yasser, is that something that you would that people would hear in your in one of your seminars, that good girls don't know their
I,
body parts?
I hope I was not that speaker. I hope I was not that person. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Ammar, there was going back to the whole couple part. There was a
Yeah.
study where they interviewed people who got divorced. 73% of the people who got divorced said that they would have stayed in the marriage had the sex been good. And whenever we do couple counseling, you gauge the health of the relationship by also intimacy. You inquire about intimacy, the frequency of it, whether it's satisfactory or not to both parties, and that gives you a sense of how satisfied the people are in the relationship. Because what happens is people are saying if the relationship is not fulfilling and the sex is not good, people have very little motivation to want to stay in the relationship. And in the Muslim community, what you see, and if I may represent the brothers for just a second, Sister Saba there, what you see is a lot of what I like to term as sexual frustration. Here is somebody who's been living here and he was physically, supposedly able to be sexually active at the age of 13, 14, but he's only able to get married until the age of 28. So that is the 14 years in between. We refer to them as the 14 years of hell, because what you have is a lot of sexual energy with no proper way of channeling it, because the person decided that they were going to save themselves until they got married. It is absolutely very noble that they have done that. However, it's not natural. That is something against our fitra. To wait that long, missing out on your sexual peak and missing out on the peak of your sexual energy, and then waiting until you get into your late 20s or 30s, and sometimes even in some cultures because of financial issues until their mid late 30s, which is really a disaster. So people then, and not only that, but something that you alluded to, that you live in a culture where there is so much sexuality around us that you would think that people are sexually better informed. And that is not the case. People are sexually more enticed. There is a lot more lust around there, but there isn't really any much proper sexual information going on. So when I do these seminars, I just ask a question. It's my icebreaker. I just say, what is the biggest sexual organ? Like everybody just looking down and people don't wanting to talk, and then somebody mumbles something, referring to private organs as being the. I say, no, it's actually the skin. And people say, oh, I never thought about it this way. So something as basic as just knowing that your skin is the biggest sex organ that you have, it's such basic information, yet people are unaware of it. So people go into these relationships, and I'm assuming here that they didn't pick up on pornography or anything like that. They go in very ill informed. And just when Sister Saba was talking about pure women are not supposed to know themselves or about sex or sexuality, a best example here is Maryam alayhi salam, when Jibreel alayhi salam appears before her and he tells her that you are about to have a baby. And what does she say? قالت أن يكون لي ولد ولم يمسسني بشر ولم أكو بغية. How is it that I am going to have a child, seeing that no man has ever touched me and I've always been a chaste woman? And the question here is that if you ask people who's the most chaste personality in the Quran, people would say it's Maryam alayhi salam. But yet the most chaste woman is sexually educated. She knows what is going on. I remember I once had a client from that region that you're speaking about, Sister Saba. She went to the tailor, and as the tailor was taking her measurement to make a dress, he pinched her. He pinched her around her chest area, and poor kid, she came back home, and she's 10 years old, and she thought this is how people get pregnant. And she's developed anxiety since that day because she was just waiting for her tummy to get bigger because the man has touched her. Now she is going to get pregnant. And I'm seeing her in her 50s, and she has got like this intense anxiety because of something like this. So you have the lack of information that is going on. you have got the misinformation that they have been exposed to, and you've got the religious guilt that is embedded, especially in our sisters, where if you enjoy it, then you must have been a bad woman. If you speak about it, then you must have been a bad woman. And then to the brothers, if your wife brings up these topics, then she's not a good woman, like like Sister Saba said. So I think that the misinformation has created an unhealthy sexual relationship amongst the couples. So one thing that I do is we have something that we refer to as sexual satisfaction inventory. And these are questions that you ask to both couples to see, how sexually satisfying their relationship is. And, there's supposed to be about 63 questions. And I can tell you that with my Muslim clients, they haven't even considered 50 of them, let alone, they do not know about 50 of these things, because that is something that people, generally speaking, are not comfortable talking about because they have been misinformed or they have been taught differently.
Jazakallah khair, that was a lot to unpack. So firstly, you mentioned way at the beginning, you said, with your clients, you like to ask them about frequency of intimacy, and that indicates the health. What's the range that people should be aiming for when you're talking about a healthy relationship? Is it, does it depend on the actual couple themselves? It varies from couple to couple, or is there some sort of like blue book that you have, some golden range?
No, actually, it depends on many factors. So it depends on how long they've been married, whether they have kids or not, depends on their age, the type of occupation that they are engaged in, and also depends on their health, like their physical health. But what we want to see is that the more, and I'm sorry, when I say about frequency, I'm talking about the frequency may be once a year, but both parties are happy with it. So the frequency is not a number that people just aim for, but what we want to see is that he still desires to be with his wife and she still desires to be with him. And that's why in some schools of jurisprudence, a divorce may not take place if during that period of ritual purity, intimacy has taken place. And what the jurists consider is that is indicative of interest. And if there is interest, they would hate to see that family be brought down or broken. So when we speak about frequency, we're talking about frequency to the satisfaction of the couples. That is the most important part. But people will usually ask me, so what's the average? Because they want to see themselves like, am I below average? Am I above average? Like, where do I fit when it comes to that? And of course, my favorite answer is always, it depends. So It depends.
I'm sure a Google search could answer that for them.
It actually depends. Google will start by saying it depends.
So when we're talking about couples who are married, but for us, especially people who are in conservative circles, people who are getting married, and as you mentioned, these are conversations that a prospective bride, prospective groom may not even know how to approach. They've been going through their 14 years of hell, and now they've finally found someone that they're interested in, and they want to know, are they compatible with them? Are they going to be compatible with them sexually? How would you advise Sister Saba and Sheikh Yassir? How would you advise them even approaching the subject? Is this a subject that they should approach? And if so, then how should they approach it? So it could be very awkward, obviously.
Yeah, it could be awkward, but I do believe that it is one of the most essential questions that needs to be asked, because, as Sheikh Yassir said, that intimacy is a huge problem in the Muslim marriages, right? I mean, 73% couples who said that if the intimacy was good, they would have stayed. So it is a huge factor in a marriage. And it is also one of those topics that is completely avoided, to talking about it before marriage. I believe we have to come up with some sort of like a question.
Euphemism?
Well, there have been girls who have asked me, and I said, you know what, just email the question. Um, because honestly, it is such a huge issue. It is such a it is such an important thing that you just cannot avoid it. And I think what happens is, if the question is coming from a girl, again, it's a little bit, I'm going to sidetrack here a little bit, but it is important to understand. Girls and women usually don't open up about this topic, not necessarily out of shyness, but also out of fear of being judged.
Absolutely.
So even if you convince them that this is nothing to be shy about, the fear of being judged and the fear of being shamed will always stay with them, because the girls ask, oh, what if it doesn't work out? He's going to keep thinking he's going to have this thing about me with him, that I asked this question. And I completely understand that women have been shamed and put down a lot because of this particular subject, because of having this desire. So they don't like being judged. I mean, they have to have even in counseling, when they come to talk to me, even as a female, they need a very comfortable, non-judgmental environment to actually start opening up about their sexual desires. So I think we're going to pretty much need a lot of shuyukh like Shaykh Yassir Fazaga and your Ammar. Thank you for hosting this particular topic. To change the whole concept, to change this narrative that no, this is something that the woman should not be talking about. This is something that the woman should not even be desiring or discussing. I believe, going back to your question, I think that we need to provide the safe, non-judgmental platform to the girls to just, they can ask, how do you know how to please your spouse? Do you know how important it is for a woman to be sexually satisfied and pleased in a marriage? I think it cannot be, you can't ask this question any other way.
And it's not a question that she can really give to her brother to go ask, or her dad to go ask on her behalf.
No, I mean, first of all, honestly, I was thinking about it. First of all, it should not even be a question, because it's just like, do you believe that a woman should be eating food, in a marriage? It's like, do you believe that a woman should be satisfied intimately? And that's, again, I'm going to sidetrack a little bit, Ammar, I'm so sorry. The problem, it is an issue primarily, is also because the woman's sexual satisfaction has been always downplayed. It's been undermined. The necessity of it has always been like, oh, women are emotional, just bring them flour, just bring them chocolate. And, it's not important to, it's not important for women to climax in their intimate, during the intimacy. It's okay. It's more important for men, which creates the problem, because when a woman is not satisfied and it becomes a cycle, she's not satisfied, next time she wouldn't want to be intimate. And then the husband is not getting it, that how important it is for the woman, for his wife to be intimately satisfied. He's bringing her roses, he's bringing her chocolate, he's taking the trash out, but he's not realizing is that, no, it's equally important for her to climax as well. And then after 3-4 times or something, the woman, they don't want to be intimate, because the lack of woman's satisfaction intimately causes stress, it causes anxiety, it causes even depression. Like some of the loving Muslim marriage videos that we have done on Muslim Matters, we have psychologists who have talked about how the lack of female satisfaction, sexual satisfaction, can lead to depression. I'm sure Dr. Yassir Fazaga will highlight that more. And then, so it's not just that women don't want to be intimate. It's like, why do they not want to be intimate? And this is something that the brothers, the Muslim men, need to understand. If we can resolve that, I think if we can teach the Muslim men the importance of satisfying their wives during intimacy, I think a lot of problem would be solved.
Or if I understood your question correctly, I think you are inquiring about premarital questioning of each other regarding, how do you bring up the topic of sexuality?
Yes.
Sister Saba, That may be what is taught to brothers, but the Prophet ﷺ spoke about the importance of men being attentive to sexually satisfying their women. So, for example, in the hadith, the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, ثلاث من العجز. Three traits are indicative of somebody being incapacitated or weak. And one of them was that a man would reach his sexual satisfaction and disregards his wife. That is not good. Or the Prophet ﷺ would say, لا يكن أحدكم كالفحل, that one of you should not be like a beast, where they beat their wife during the day and then expects to make love with her at night. Or even the Quran would speak the usage of that euphemism, verse I think 222, Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقَدِّمُوا لِأَنفُسِكُمْ, and put forth something before yourselves. And that is, the scholars say that this is in reference to being playful prior to intimacy, because again, it takes most women some time to get there, and the man is responsible to do that per the request of the directions of the Quran here. So Ammar, a question to you, and of course it's to you and through you to your viewers as well. Is love a primary emotion or a secondary emotion? What do you think?
I'm going to say primary.
Very good, Ammar. You're actually wrong.
Then I am going to change my answer to secondary.
Very good. So love is actually a secondary emotion, which means that there has to be other emotions in existence for love to take place. And the two primary emotions that must be in existence for love to take place is excitement and acceptance. That is when you can actually love somebody. And the element of excitement is really important. Any and every romantic relationship potentially starts with that physical spark. There is something about that person that excites me. And of course, the quickest is to find out whether you are physically excited by that person. And how long does it take a man to find out whether a female is exciting or not?
1 second.
How long?
1 second.
1 second. A man actually finds that very, very quickly. This person is exciting or are they not exciting? And it's a male thing. Okay? Men are actually, what happens is that your body reacts to it. So your own body would be telling you that you do find this person to be exciting. Now, that excitement is there, so we make certain assumptions, okay? That I want to be with this person because I am excited by them. I want to be with them. I think sometimes the fear is in relationships that were not necessarily by choice or they were arranged, let's say, and I have nothing against arranged marriages. And I have met couples who have been married for 6 months. A couple actually was married for 5 years, and the marriage was never consummated. And when I asked what's going on, and the girl, I was talking to her by herself, and she said, Sheikh, I'm not attracted to him. And the brother, people would see him and they would say, MashaAllah, this is a very fit, good looking young man. And I said, when did you know this? She said, I knew it the day I met him. He just never turned me on. And the question was, well, why did you do it? So I know it, I was feeling so guilty. My mom was so excited and she really liked him. And I thought that, turning him down would just really be something wrong to do. So here she is putting herself in a situation like this where her own body was telling her, there is no way that something like this is happening. So I'm going to assume, in order for your question to be addressed further, that he likes her, she likes him, he finds her attractive, she finds him attractive. Well, what else do they need to talk about when it comes to the issue of sexual compatibility? Well, obviously, we are not going to promote that people, go and do something out there. However, what you want to do is that you really do want to emphatically and very clearly, explicitly indicate to yourself first that you really are attracted to this person. And that person also needs to do the same for them. I really do find myself attracted to this person to the point that I really do want to be with them. And I think that's just going to be the biggest hurdle that this part is there. And even in some scholars, they would say when the relationship is advanced and you know what, we've gone beyond meeting the families and making sure that you checked out the person and what have you, they would be a bit more relaxed with the whole idea of hijab for the for the woman, and the whole point now is to enhance that sense of attraction to each other. But this is something that and you've got to love this about um, the Islamic culture. In Western culture here is that you need to know everything about the person and end up getting married. Islamic culture says you need to know enough about the person and begin by getting married. So marriage in Western culture seems to be an end, versus in Islamic culture, marriage is actually a beginning. And part of the excitement, I believe, is also learning about each other's sexuality and about your own sexuality in this relationship. It can be extremely exciting.
Sorry, Sheikh. I just want to be a little bit more explicit because we only have 8 minutes left. But uh, how do they go about this? And I'm thinking about from the aspect of, for example, even by the time a person, before they've gotten married, by now they are aware of themselves, right? Whether it's the guy or the girl, they are aware, for example, if they have an incredibly high sex drive, they are aware if they have certain interests, right? Certain fantasies, certain what have you. And so, how do they approach this? Should they approach this with their potential spouse so that they make sure that they're on the same uh, wavelength, or that you don't have this incredible mismatch walking in where someone, for example, isn't as interested sexually and they're coming into the marriage for other purposes, other means of fulfillment, whereas this person is coming in and this is their primary their primary goal, for example, out of getting married.
I hope it's
Not primary goal, but the idea, you get what I mean.
I do. And yes, and Ammar, it does get tricky. Okay. But you need to ask, see, part of the deen is the idea of being proper. Okay. So there are certain topics and questions that you can bring up as somebody who is interested. You can state facts about yourself. Like, look, you know what? I have very high energy, or people can sometimes say, look, I have had people who called me Sheikh, I am looking for somebody who is asexual. I just have no desire. And there is nothing wrong.
That's
There
good.
is nothing wrong with
Yeah.
that. Okay? So what happens is that these are, especially if you believe that they're going to have an impact on the relationship, you would have to be honest in discussing these things. And I have to agree with Sister Saba here. Creating that safe environment where people can be, I think it's just incredible, what people would want to talk about or the type of issues that we address. In my case, I do it
Premarital counseling.
premarital counseling. I bring these topics up, but when I bring it up, it's somehow controlled, and people are forced to answer the question because I am there, because there is a third party that is facilitating for that conversation. Now, what do people do who do not have that third party to facilitate that conversation? I would say speak about yourself, speak about your aspiration, speak about the kind of things that you want to do. Again, you're being very polite, you're being very proper, but you're stating it as a matter of, look, this is what I have in mind when I get married. This is what I want to be able to do. And please remember that these conversations are not the conversations that you begin with. These are conversations to be had towards the very, very end. Once you've gotten to know the person, they've proven themselves, you've proven yourself in whatever way. And that is when you have these types of conversations. And they're not supposed to be, the type of conversations that from now on, this is the only way that we are going to be talking from now on. You don't want to reduce the relationship to just that. I know people are driven by their hormones at that point, and that's why I tell them, don't talk at night. Always assume there is a third party listening. When the phone goes down, or when the sun goes down, the phone goes down.
Nice.
And this just becomes like guidelines, because you really do not want people to reduce this relationship to just the bedroom.
Very good. So lastly, we've talked a lot about the importance of making sure that the wife is satisfied. What are resources, and what would you encourage your average Muslim man to go and learn more and educate himself more about pleasing his wife? What resources would you recommend, Sister Saba?
Well, we have the Loving Muslim Marriage video series on Muslim matters that I've personally developed, hosted, put a lot of time and energy in it. By the way, Yassir Fazaga, we wanted to have you over for those videos. I don't know if you remember that or not, but you were busy. And then honestly, I think, Ammar, a simple Google search, there's a lot of material that people can read, and it's decent without any images or anything. There's so much that they can read, they can check out books. I don't know any on top of my head, but yeah, there, especially nowadays, it's pretty much impossible to not know how to please your wife.
Okay.
And then, it's something that they would do premarital, but after the marriage, as I have said it in the videos also, and as the Sheikh said, that's the time to basically learn more about your spouse. That's the part of the excitement, is to discover your spouse's needs and their sexuality and their desires and fantasies or whatever. And the mindset from both sides should be non-judgmental. And if we start cleaning the mess that we have created for centuries about female sexuality and judgmental and all that stuff, I think that would be very healthy for our Muslim marriages in the future.
Ammar, I get very excited about this topic. So I would tell people to just go to Tanweer Institute.
TanweerInstitute.com?
TanweerInstitute.com.
Okay.
But I tell you, look, the part of this process is really the trial and error in the process, especially if people are lighthearted about it. That can be really, really nice. And because
trial and error sounds like a disaster, to be honest.
No, it actually does not have to be. Okay. And just to make sure that the viewers, those who are married amongst them, we
trial and error sounds like you're going to be sleeping on the couch. That's what that
for the sake of practicality. So that is the idea of, and I tell this to people with my clients, we just go, how well do you know yourself sexually, and how well do you know your spouse sexually? So what we do is that we literally have a week of exercise. Okay, so this day we're going to try this. This day we're going to try this. This day we're going to try it. And the point here is it's not just about them. It's also about you getting to know yourself sexually, which I think the biggest disaster in this has been pornography. Because what pornography does is that pornography tells you about somebody else's fantasy. And when you constantly try to play the fantasies that you have watched on porn, you actually miss out on getting to know your own self sexually, which is an absolute disaster. And at that point, you view yourself as this actor who's trying to, make whatever it is that they have seen, in the porn movies that they have seen. And in the process, you lose out on getting to know yourself or your partner sexually. So there are like really brilliant exercises out there.
Jazakallah khair. We have to do a part two because there's so much still that I'd love to discuss with you all, especially, we ended on porn, but we'd love to be able to, discuss this disaster and this epidemic even more. But inshallah, another time. Jazakumullah khair. Shaykh Yassir Fazaga and Sister Saba, for your time. I would like to end with, of course, where people can find more information on the projects that you're working on. Currently, Sister Saba, the book that is untitled so far, is there a way that people can check in with you on that novel? I'm sure a lot of people will be interested to read it when it comes out. Or in general, your work, where they can find you.
They can find me on Muslim Matters. I'm a specialist writer there, or just, my Facebook page, or just email me, umreem@gmail.com.
And your Facebook page is?
Umreem Saba Syed.
Okay.
Yeah. Or just email me, umreem@gmail.com.
Excellent. We'll have the links for those, inshallah ta'ala, in the video description as well. You can find that there. And Shaykh Yassir?
We have a book coming up, inshallah, The Prophetic Remedy in Treating Depression and Anxiety.
Excellent.
And I'm really, really passionate about that book, in addition to our course on Islam and Sexuality that is offered by Tanweer Institute. So I'd say if you'd like to bring that to your community, please do visit our website at tanweerinstitute.com, inshallah.
Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.